Rock has come a long way since the 60s. The people who listened to it to rebel against their parents became parents themselves, and with so many status quos to challenge, we've seen everything from punk, grunge, hard rock, alternative, garage rock, classic rock, post-punk, metal, psychedelic rock, emo, indie rock, blues rock, and even progressive rock. And part of that diversity comes from how almost anyone, anywhere, can dive in. It's the garage bands that grew into local legends, the kids learning their first power chords, and the spaces where neighbors come together for a live set. And one more place that has helped to build that scene is Larchmont and Mamaroneck. In this video, we'll explore some of the people who've shaped and nurtured this vibrant musical ecosystem, because every great sound starts with a community that refuses to stay silent. This is Sounds of the Shore.
Hi, my name's Ted Utz. I am the executive director of Vine Street Music here in Larchmont and Mamaroneck and a member of the band Sway. We've been together here for 15 years, just kind of setting the tempo for rock and roll in our town.
The story starts with the musicians who lived through rock's early days and carried it forward, when the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and Led Zeppelin were changing music forever. Working as both the bassist for the rock band Sway and as a producer for Vine Street Music, he has stayed deeply connected to the scene. He remembers the nights where the biggest names in rock played close enough to feel the walls shake. And for Ted, those experiences still shape the sound of the town, and the connection people feel when a band takes stage.
My mom was the director of the Larchmont Community Chorus, which was a really big deal in the late 50s and early 60s. Doc Severinsen was the director of music. He lived in Larchmont when The Tonight Show used to be based in New York City. So music really hit me, and they did a lot of songs from, again, the late 50s, early 60s, including music from a Broadway show called The Music Man, which came out in 1957. Later, in 1962, I think it became a huge musical movie. And the soundtrack was on Billboard for 250 some odd weeks. The soundtrack of my teenage years, during that time, there was a lot going on at that time. Starting off in 1964, when the Beatles hit Ed Sullivan, they really exploded. They were brilliant. February 1964, they came out and they did 4 songs. First song was All My Lovin', Paul McCartney. He captured everybody's hearts. But the second song they did was Till There Was You from The Music Man. So it brought the two generations together, our parents and our kids, all together within about 10 minutes. So that exploded immediately. And that was the beginning of it all. But then it evolved. Rolling Stones, Cream, Chicago, Led Zeppelin, later on the Grateful Dead, the Allman Brothers Band. So there was really a variety of music types during that 5 or 6 year period. Once I saw that on television, we had to start our own band. So in 1966, we had a band out of Murray Avenue School and later the Homics in the high school. And the evolution was actually pretty quick. Bands like the Young Rascals came out of Pelham. Stories had a huge international hit with members of that band from Mamaroneck High School and Scarsdale High School. We also were very, very close to New York City. So not only do we have the world's greatest stage at Madison Square Garden, but in the late 60s, we had the Fillmore East. And so many of us went to the Fillmore East on a regular basis. But to the north, we had the Capitol Theater. And all of these bands were playing the Capitol Theater. Janis Joplin wrote Mercedes-Benz at a bar across the street in Portchester, and the Allmans and the Dead and Traffic. Everybody played both New York City and Portchester. Larchmont and Mamaroneck is really kind of insulated by the fact that it's just these two little towns, or within the town of Mamaroneck. We have a tremendous number of musicians. Actually, I think it started very early on. We've always been a little bit challenged as far as having a venue is concerned to play. Going way back into the late 60s, there was a venue, a restaurant called Chaucer's, later Marty Doyle's. It's now Le Steak on Palmer Avenue in Larchmont. I've been here playing in bands since 1965, and about 16 years ago, I met Andy Hilfiger, who had just moved here from New York City. He was a musician, and we started the band Sway together and really energized the music scene. It has really just grown like crazy from that time. It's getting bigger and bigger all the time. You have the older bands, you have new younger bands, and I only see it growing more and more in the short and long-term future. I really find that the multi-generational appeal of what I guess we could call classic rock is in many ways mind-boggling. It just continues to live. I was brought into music production through radio. I had a 40-year radio career, started at Syracuse University, and they have a really strong radio presence at that school. And we used to go and record bands at the local bars and restaurants and broadcast them live on the radio. I always wanted to bring those bands on the radio to record labels that were based in New York, and the only way was to produce them ourselves. Being a producer of music is a blessing and a curse. It's, especially things that I produce. We do a lot of live video of bands who are playing around town. So we've started this company, say a local nonprofit called Vine Street Music. I dissect them, and I couldn't have done that better. And a lot of times I'll listen to music and I'll do the same thing. When people listen to what I produced, I want them to think, first of all, wow, that sounds really good. That looks really good. That band is really good. And wait, there are more bands in town that are that good? So I want people to see the quality of what we have here. I mean, that's really what it's all about. And I get just as much satisfaction getting up there on stage, playing my bass guitar, as I do, working with the other bands. And we have something to show for it. And for those of you who are watching this show, maybe you'll see a couple of examples and you'll feel the same way.
My name is Tory Ritter. I am the owner of School of Rock and Mamaroneck.
I'm Vanesa Ritter. I own the School of Rock and Mamaroneck along with my husband Tory, and we've been here 11 years in Mamaroneck on the Avenue.
Keeping the sound alive for the next generation is what drives Tory and Vanesa Ritter. At their School of Rock and Mamaroneck, they've spent over a decade showing kids that learning music means more than just practicing scales. For them, rock is a living thing, pressed into every sticker, photo, and frame in their school. It's passed from stage to stage as new groups of students learn how to play loud, play together, and play songs of their own.
I think the first time music truly mattered to me was in the summer of '85 when Live Aid came on. I was watching on the TV. And I saw U2 play, and I saw Bono come out in those ridiculous high-heeled boots and that mullet and play a 10-minute version of Bad, a song that I knew on the radio, and it just taking the world by storm. And that, to me, was just an incredible moment in rock.
I think music was always a big part of my life because it was a family thing. But it wasn't until I was probably in middle school that I realized I didn't love my lessons. It was just so boring. All I wanted to do was sing contemporary stuff. And I went to see, I'll never forget it, changed my life, Pat Benatar at Jones Beach Theater and Heart in the same summer. And that really changed my life because I got to see rock and roll vocalists as females really be role models in the rock and roll arena that really was kind of male dominant at the time in the 80s.
My teenage years, I started off listening to older bands like the Kinks, and then I moved on to a heavy Led Zeppelin phase when I just listened to all things Led Zeppelin. Until I discovered an album in a vinyl record in my sister's collection, Close to the Edge by Yes. And that album changed my life forever because I didn't understand it. I knew it was beautiful and incredible, but I couldn't play it. I could play Led Zeppelin at that point in my life, but I couldn't wrap my head around how to play what I learned was progressive rock. I started listening heavily to Yes, Genesis, King Crimson, Rush. Being exposed to such a breadth of music here at the School of Rock and having to teach genres that I really wasn't super familiar with before we got into it, like classic R&B for an example.
In the 80s, around that same time, MTV came into play. And MTV changed the way I listened to music because it became a visual aspect of music. And it actually ties to what School of Rock is all about, which is the performance and how you look and how you deliver the lyrics and the song. So it's not only what you hear, but it's also what you see.
I've been playing music here since I grew up. I've been in a band since I was a teenager. And back then you were playing in people's backyards and in their garages and in house parties. Since then, it has absolutely exploded. There were a handful of bands maybe 10 years ago. There's dozens of bands and many more venues that support that and see that it's something that people want to come out and see.
It's like an artsy part of maybe the Brooklyn scene or New York City scene that people had in their youth that they want to bring to this area outside of New York City.
I think what makes it unique here in Larchmont and Mamaroneck is the collaboration. So many bands who create secondary and tertiary bands that then spin off into other bands.
Rock and roll may have been a little bit more of not considered a great education tool.
I think Larchmont and Mamaroneck has incredible classical music academies here. This was something unique. Rock music wasn't being taught here, and not in groups the way we do, not on stages the way we do.
People really grow as musicians learning classic rock, and it is the new classical education. And they love when they put the classic rock stations on and their kids say, "Please, Mom, leave that on."
The town has become incredibly supportive of live music over the years. They redid Constitution Park, concerts in Memorial Park, and I think the music community feels incredibly supported.
Our philosophy at School of Rock is the stage is the greatest teacher. You can be a great musician and you're in your lesson room with your teacher. You're not really getting the full experience of what it's like to play with others and learn with others and excel with others. And so we kind of equate it to almost a sports team experience. And that's a beautiful thing for us to witness as educators.
My name is Garrett Weston. I'm the owner of Underground Vinyl, indie record store in Larchmont, New York.
For Garrett Weston, rock history lives in the grooves of a record and is just as important as the genre itself. His store, Underground Vinyl, is a place where the albums have shaped decades of rock and are still discovered the old-fashioned way, by flipping through crates until something catches your eye. From punk to prog and from the Smiths to the Ramones, Garrett keeps the music accessible in a form you can hold, while giving the community a place to explore and talk about these bands.
I'd always enjoyed music for a really long time before, since I was a really little kid. And then I was given like a turntable stereo little system. And my grandfather, I guess, walked into a record store and asked the guy, you know, what do kids listen to these days? And so that guy or whoever gave him AC/DC, Rolling Stones, and Hall & Oates. I listened to those albums and I started borrowing albums from my parents. I started listening to alternative. In context, it was the mid-late 80s. You weren't like, you were the alternative crowd. I guess what now became like goth or whatever, but it wasn't so much that. You know, my friends were skate punks, and the music that we listened to was not what anybody else liked. Smiths, REM, Ramones, New Order, Joy Division. I just wanted there to be a record store in Larchmont. You know, again, music matters to me. I love music, and not having a record store, I felt, was sad. And there are so few record stores anymore. I think it's an important part of music culture, and that's why I made it happen. There's no money in it. If I didn't have a day job, I mean, you know, I couldn't afford to do this. Little money we do make, I donate 100% of the profits to charity. And so for kind of selfish reasons, because I wanted to have a record store, because I never got to work in that record store when I was a kid and I always wanted to, I built one. I just figured, okay, it's just gonna be anyone from 40 to 65. That's gonna be like that's gonna be everybody. And it's not. I'd say the other half is young adults that either never had vinyl because they came up through the CD and MP3 age, or only MP3 and never physical music, you know, teenagers. You know, that's one of the most fun things is like, you know, hearing people getting excited about the music they find in the record store and find the album that they either weren't necessarily looking for or forgot about or whatever. And that's, you know, the beauty of going to a record store and just flipping through. It's extremely different to come in, start flipping through one section of the albums, looking for one record and realizing, oh my God, I totally forgot I love this album. But in as much as a museum, as a cultural center, record stores kind of are too now, because again, they're not everywhere. It's just in these very particular places. And I would hope that, you know, people will come and appreciate what having a record store in town really means. My hope is that it will just continue to thrive, and that there will be a continued interest in buying vinyl at a record store. I think it takes away some of the meaningfulness of music when it's just readily available. It's nothing you really look for. You don't listen to albums. You don't connect with the music the same way that we used to when you buy an album. I think that's also part of the cool things about Larchmont and this area in general. They're usually, individually owned businesses. So unfortunately, I can't take in everything I wish I could because physically, I just don't have the capacity. So, as far as like my rules of buying records, I just only can buy stuff that's in very good condition and the kind of music that we normally sell here in the shop. Store it upright, keep it clean, and try not to scratch it.
My name is Shani Sherman, and I am an owner of Locals 10538 here in Larchmont.
And for Shani Sherman, keeping rock alive means creating a stage where it can be planned right now. Locals 10538 is a space where a cover band, an original act, or even a wedding party can all share the same energy that rock has always thrived on. It's not about formality, it's about plugging in, turning up, and giving people a place to connect over live music.
So I would say my soundtracks were more mixtapes of everything that I liked. You waited for the song to come on the radio, and then you hit the record button really fast. So a lot of times, when you couldn't get to the record store to buy the record, or when you're a teenager, you're saving money for certain things, you would record it off the radio until you could. Because obviously when you record it off the radio, you hear the person saying, and next up we have, and sometimes you don't want to hear that over and over again. I loved Aerosmith, anything Aerosmith. Journey was another one. But then you have Wilson Phillips. But my whole thing was the big hair bands. My very, very first album that I remember was John Denver, Sunshine on My Shoulders. I was obsessed with John Denver, and I would sing into my blue hairbrush. People always say, what are you? But we're kind of everything. And that's what I learned during COVID, that every single parent said, there's no event space in Larchmont. There is my gym for little itty bitties. You can go to a club if you're a member of a club, but there's really no event space. There's no music venue. You don't want to take your kid to a drop-off when they're 10 in Port Chester, because that's not a drop-off. That's you need to stay, you can't go home and do laundry. And that's what I listen to. So Locals is feeling that the amount of musicians that call, and it's crazy because so many people are like, oh, you're a live music venue, how do I get in? We're like 20% live music. If you want to have a wedding party here, if you want to have a bat mitzvah, if you want to have anything that involves live music and you want the band, you're not outsourcing things. You're not trying to find a speaker system, trying to find everything that the band needs, because we have it. I moved here in, oh my goodness, when was it? 2013, and had absolutely no idea that there were as many musicians in this town. No idea at all. It was every single person I thought only did finance, was only an architect. So I think what's so interesting about the music in this town is, first, you have no idea who you're gonna see on that stage. It could be your best friend's dad's, dad, and you have no idea. The people in Larchmont just need to have fun. I mean, I love going to the clubs, don't get me wrong, I do. But that's a different feel. And when you walk into Locals, you're never gonna have anyone say to you, good afternoon, my name is Shani, and our specials today are, and welcome to Locals. We will never be that formal, because I want to be cheers. I want you to know, I know exactly what you're gonna order, I know your kids' names, I know the school that they go to, and when people walk in the door, it's more like, hey guys, welcome to Locals. What's that? You can sit anywhere you want. But I just feel that it's okay to have fun and to let your hair down, but also I want to help the businesses too. And I feel that since we've been here, one of the biggest impacts, I have a big mouth. People want to know where I get my glasses, I tell them where to go. People want to know where I get my hair cut, I tell them where to go. So I'm really good at spreading the love, because you're supposed to do that as a business owner. I just feel like locals should be for locals, and that means everyone, not just the people who live here, but the people who work here as well. So.
This is how rock survives and thrives in a small town, not by nostalgia alone, but by being played, shared, and passed on. From veterans who saw the greats live to young musicians learning their first riffs, to the people keeping records and spinning the stages, Larchmont and Mamaroneck continues to make rock music part of everyday life. Here, the genre isn't just remembered, it's still alive, loud, and local.
Elmira, we're coming back for set 2, stay with us! Thank you very much.